Honeybees are important to agriculture, but pesticides from nearby farms can cause them harm and minimize their effectiveness. That's why Mississippi State Extension initiated a partnered plan to foster better communication between row crop farmers and beekeepers. The result is a program that's drawing national attention. Honeybees play a vital role in our daily lives, but we often take bees for granted. Agricultural crops rely heavily on bees to pollinate the fields where our food and fiber are grown. Likewise, row crops serve as a food source for honeybees, so beekeepers often place their hives near crop fields. However, Mississippi State Research and Extension entomologist Jeff Gore says sometimes bees can be inadvertently affected by pesticides that farmers use for controlling other types of insects that are harmful in row crops.
It's important to note that in Mississippi, and really all of the Mid-South, we rely heavily on insecticides to produce crops. And about 6 or 7 years ago, we started having a lot of issues on a national and even international basis about the impacts of insecticides on managed pollinators, in particular honeybees. And so it's been very, very important to get all of these groups that are involved in both row crop agriculture and in beekeeping together at the table to talk about what those national and international problems have been, identify what problems we're having in Mississippi, and try to address some things that both farmers and beekeepers can do collaboratively.
Various stakeholders in Mississippi are taking action in several ways. For example, the Mississippi Honeybee Stewardship Program was formed. It outlines a set of standards for beekeepers, farmers, and professionals from both industries to follow. Included are steps like exchanging basic information between farmers and beekeepers, recognizing bee-aware flags placed near hives, and discussing hive placement before a beekeeper sets up on a farmer's property. Beekeepers are also encouraged to provide GPS coordinates to farmers, and farmers should notify ground and aerial pesticide applicators of all beehive placements. Mississippi State University Extension helps educate all stakeholders about insect disease control, beehive management, and other related topics through various publications, meetings, conferences, and workshops. These combined efforts in Mississippi caught the attention of the Entomological Society of America. As a result, the Insect Ecosystems Science Policy Field Tour was created, which brought stakeholders nationwide to Mississippi.
The Entomological Society of America is the national organization of professional entomologists. There's nearly 7,000 of us. Within that, about 2,500 of us focus on an area called plant insect ecosystems, and that involves everything from insects and natural ecosystems to crop protection to, of course, pollinators. Now, here recently, within the last year or so, our section determined that pollinator health would be a technical issue at which we would focus our efforts on. And what we wanted to do was build awareness both within our section and with the public on pollinator health.
As a logical next step to ESA plant insect ecosystem section's focus on pollinators, we wanted to bring people down to Mississippi to see an example of one of the first programs that brought together beekeepers and growers. And so we were able to talk with people and invite them down to see the Honeybee Stewardship Program here firsthand and understand how communication between different groups was able to facilitate some of the positive interactions. In addition, Entomological Society of America members from Mississippi State University were key in making this program a reality.
In addition, there's another approach to protecting honeybees. Jane DeMarchi with American Seed Trade Association says it involves using a wider variety of seed selection.
From our perspective, ASTA is a broad-based membership organization. We have seed companies that are in different crops and environment and conservation seed. So we're looking particularly in the pollinator space about how we can protect pollinators around areas that are using seed treatment and how we can also improve pollinator habitat using different types of wildflower and other kinds of seed.
One of the biggest take-home messages is that challenges with insects and pest management will vary between different regions of the country. For example, Mississippi growers face much more pressure to control insects since the insect population is much higher compared to other parts of the U.S.
In particular, we tend to have much heavier insect pressure in all of the crops that we grow. We tend to rely more heavily on foliar insecticide sprays to manage insect pests in all of the crops.
And interacting with my colleagues from Mississippi State, I started hearing about the great progress that they've made in bringing the farmers and the honey producers or beekeepers together to talk about these issues of bee health. And that was kind of my main reason for participating here. My initial gut reaction is, if you guys can find this coexistence between the beekeepers and growers under this very intensive input-heavy production, I think we have to be able to do it too, right? Because our production isn't as intensive. There aren't as many insecticide applications.
One of the stops during the field policy tour included Provine helicopters in the Mississippi Delta. Participants watched a field aerial application and experienced hands-on learning about innovative technology used to enable a safe aerial pest management application. During an in-field session, the group learned about integrated pest management programs as well as economically important insect pests in Mississippi crops. Discussions with researchers, agricultural consultants, and growers also took place. Participants also visited a native pollinator conservation site, followed by a trip to the demonstration research plots at Mississippi State University's Delta Research and Extension Center in Stoneville. Beekeeper Johnny Thompson says maintaining ongoing collaboration with row crop farmers has worked well in his business.
When you've got thousands of acres of soybeans blooming, we can put our hives out there and they can make a really good honey crop. We have it worked out where, we realize the farmers have to spray their crops to protect them, so we try to keep our bees in areas away from direct exposure to the pesticides that they may be spraying so that they can, protect their crops and we can still make our honey crop. If you get a direct spray in, you're going to find, hives full of dead bees. We never see that. There is a possibility that when the bees are flying across a field from our hives to another field, they could get sprayed, but so far we haven't had any issues.
As new beekeepers enter the business, Extension entomologist Jeff Harris says efforts must be made to continue the communication and keep row crop growers and beekeepers on the same page.
It's an ongoing thing. It never ends. This isn't over. We're going to have to deal with things and modify things, and new issues are going to crop up. We have to keep the dialogue going because beekeepers are always going to bring their bees to the Delta for soybean honey, cotton honey, and farmers are always going to use pesticides to control their pests. So there's always going to be this tension. The pesticides change, but there's always going to be this tension.
Amidst varying opinions on the issue, all stakeholders agree with one fact. Our survival depends on pollinating insects. We may never see a complete end to the debates regarding pollinators and pest management. However, working toward cooperation for the greater good is a step in the right direction.
Good to see folks on both sides of the issue actually talking things out.
Yes, clearly everyone has something at stake here, so yes, it's great that they're communicating so fluidly.
Yeah, it absolutely is.